Bakersfield, California. It's time to open up with real people, real talk about real stuff. And now, a special welcome to our friends throughout California, across the nation, and around the world to this week's edition of Open Up.
Thank you.
You bet.
Welcome, everyone. It is time to open up. Happy Thursday to you. We have a great show lined up, but Don, first of all, Nature's Fruit Market and Juice Bar. They've done it again. This is a delicious drink, and our guest talks about it too. He likes it. This is called the Green Machine, which is a very popular drink. And the people at Nature's Fruit Market and Juice Bar, which is Chuck and Wendy Noss, and all the wonderful staff there, fabulous people, genuinely care about your health.
Yes, they do.
1918 G Street, so please stop in and get something healthy and a health tip as well.
1918th G Street now, but very soon moving into the iconic Henley's building right across from the Fox. And there'll be a drive-through and really taking this our health to a whole new level and making it much more accessible to the whole community. We're really excited for them and glad to have them as a sponsor.
Very, very much so, Don. So we got a lot of Johns on the set today.
But now, careful with that.
Sorry.
Listen, you know, there's an ancient piece of wisdom that says, there goes my hearing device here. Let me get it back in. That says, if you want to be wise, walk with the wise.
Yes.
If you want to be prosperous, walk with those who've achieved prosperity. Learn from them. How did they conduct their lives? Boy, this just keeps popping out. I'll rely on you to hear from our producer over there.
Yes.
We'll just. So we have today, I think, an extraordinary guest. Although he's very modest and soft-spoken, but nevertheless, a man who has exhibited tremendous wisdom, had a tremendous influence in his circle of contacts and friends, and we're talking about John Gwynn. John Gwynn is the recently retired city manager of Shafter, and with a distinguished career leading up to that position. And then, John, how many years at Shafter? 30, more than 30?
It's 31 years.
31 years. You know, for anyone to hold a position, that's a long run. And to come to the end of 31 years in a highly volatile position and still have the respect and admiration of the entire community. I got to attend John's retirement party, and I mean, the place was packed, and it just went on and on about people's feelings and admiration for this man. So, John, you know, I've always said a departure is a terrible thing to waste. And you've departed one job, and once you do that, it gives you kind of a perspective to look back with maybe a greater measure of candor that you could do while in the job and reflect upon the job and your life in it. And so we're just here to pick your brains today. The entire purpose of our show is to draw from our guests things that are really helpful and usable to our viewers, of encouragement to them. And so here we go. So why don't we just begin at the beginning? John, take us back to, you know, let's start your years, your family years growing up.
Okay. I do have to say this, that I think you were at my retirement party, and I think that was probably as much or maybe more a reflection of Shafter than it was of me. It really is an exceptional community. I was just fortunate enough to be there, and so it was a good 31 years, and we still live there and plan on living there for the rest of our lives.
Is that where you were born and raised?
No. Actually, I was born in Texas, and we came to Taft, California when I was 5. And then we moved to Lost Hills, and that's where I grew up. I went to Wasco High School. I have a very boring life. I went to Wasco High School. I met my wife when we were 14. I actually got off the bus from Lost Hills, and I can tell you exactly where she was standing at Wasco High School when I first saw her.
What about the color of dress
I
she
know
was
the
wearing?
dress she had on. Absolutely. It was a blue dress, and I know that dress.
At 14 years old.
It's just, well, in Lost Hills, you know. I tell you. But it's true. It absolutely is true. And As a matter of fact, at Wasco High School, there's a eucalyptus tree outside of a history class. We still remember the teacher's name. That tree is still there, and I've told the school that if they ever chop that thing down, I'll be disappointed. Anyway,
John, just a moment on Lost Hills. The tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of vehicles that drive up and down I-5 and just whiz right by that kind of little stopover. It looks like the middle of nothing, but it's not the middle of nothing. Tell us just a bit about Lost Hills.
Well, when I grew up out there, you have to understand I left in 1970. Was when I left home.
It really was.
So when I grew up, the interstate wasn't there. I-5 wasn't there, and well, actually, it was being constructed, as was the aqueduct. And so when we first moved there, it was really just a little oil field town. And the most exciting thing we had was to go down to the local gas station and watch the people go on 46 to the coast. And that was pretty exciting, actually. People would stop and get gas, and we'd gawk at them. And we were just really, poor kids living in the desert. But
Enjoying simple fun.
it was very simple, that's for sure. And my dad worked for, at the time, it was Standard Oil, later to become Chevron. He eventually retired from there, but that's where I lived from the time I was about 7 until I was 18.
So that encounter with your sweetheart there was it mutual?
I think so. It was. Well, actually, we got married when we were 19. Both of us were 19 when we got married. We've been married 42 years. So I was fortunate enough. God really blessed me. He sort of gave me my soulmate early in life. Just kept me out of trouble, and it all worked out. So we've.
How special.
It actually is. It's a unique. That in and of itself is probably a unique story.
How old were you when the two of you married?
We were 19.
19.
19 years old.
So you dated for 5 years.
Yep.
That's a wonderful thing. I met my wife late in life, and I always wished I'd met her when I was young, so I could love her all my life.
Don.
So I felt robbed of all those years.
I hope she's watching and hears that.
But that is true. And see, I've had the enjoyment of that. Marcia and I have just, we've had each other, and it's really been a wonderful life.
Wow.
And getting better.
Yes.
And getting better.
Yes.
Getting better. Yeah. All right,
So-
from Wasco, or from Lost Hills, take us on forward.
Yes.
Well, okay, from Lost Hills, I went to Wasco High School. After high school, I went into the workforce. I didn't go to college. When I was about 20, I decided I wanted to be a civil engineer, and we had a son. And I went to Fresno State, bought all the engineering books. And in California, you can, with certain experience and people, signing that are agreeing that you would make a good engineer, they'll allow you to take the tests. And so I studied and took the tests and became a registered civil engineer.
Does that hold true today, that you can do that on your own, or do you?
I think you can. It's not. It happens occasionally, but not often.
All right.
So I did that. I worked for the city of Hanford for 8 years, and then worked for the city of Ventura for a while, and then went back to Hanford and became the assistant public works director there. And then in 1983, Marcia and I always wanted to. My wife grew up in Wasco, and her family really is from the Wasco Shafter area. So we really wanted to come back to that area and raise our family, and that had been our goal and had been our long-range goal.
Did you have anything else in mind of doing in life?
Other than to be Marcia's husband and raise a family and
Be an engineer.
be an engineer. I wrote a deal. I found it just the other day, what it was that I really wanted to try to accomplish. And a big part of that was to have my sons grow up and make a contribution, and to be able to make a contribution in my community. And so that was what probably drove me as much as anything.
So what was the core of this motivation, John? A desire to serve, a desire to see your family grow. Where did that core value come from?
Well, it came from my parents. I had two. I was very, very fortunate. I really have had a somewhat boring life. It's been a wonderful life, but I have had two parents that loved me and were Christians. We love the Lord, and we have faith in that and trust in that, and
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother. He lives here in Bakersfield.
Oh,
And we have two sons. One lives in Shafter and one lives here in Bakersfield. One's assistant principal at Independence, and the other one works for Buena Vista Water Storage District. We have two grandchildren. Our granddaughter's in Washington, D.C. right now, and getting texts by the minute of all the exciting things she's seen. So, I think just the way we are, being a part of the community, having a sense of community, being able to give rather than to take, it's just a big part of how I was raised.
Wow, it's a wonderful value. Okay, we want to then track how each step prepared you for the next step and brought you to where you are. So we're going to take a break right now, John, and we'll be right back with more on Open Up.
We do our research.
We're shoppers.
I was hoping I could save money with Personal Express insurance.
We've had other quotes from other companies.
And in shopping around, it was the best price.
When she actually ran the numbers, I was shocked at the savings that I had.
I have checked around. Personal Express Insurance is less. They have great rates.
They're one of the lowest around that I've found.
Nobody can beat Personal Express Insurance.
Low rates with the local advantage. That's Personal Express.
The new book is out. That was easy. I would title this thing sort of a description of what raising children is like. That was easy. I've been writing columns now for about 25 years. Writing has always been a conversation. You're taking somebody by the hand for 3 or 4 minutes and you're not letting go. The new book, That Was Easy. Nothing easy about any of this, but we've had some fun, and I hope you guys will have some fun looking at this book.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield Californian. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet! You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
Kern Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, real estate, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the bi-monthly business journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
If you own or operate a private dental practice and need help with claim submissions, claim follow-ups, updating patients' accounts, or posting insurance payments, turn to Thorne Dental Claim Professionals. TDCP is dedicated to providing trained dental claim specialists to take care of your dental insurance billing and claims. Your patients are your #1 priority, so give them the attention they need by trusting in TDCP to take care of your administrative tasks. For more information, visit www.dentalclaimprofessionals.com or call them today.
We're so grateful and so proud of the sponsors that are coming on to support this program. This segment brought to you in part, if we can bring up their names. There it is, Kern Construction and Electric Incorporated. We're talking about Robert Miller there with 30 years of experience in construction in all phases, projects around the home and property, there's the number to call. It's 322-5554, and you'll get Robert Miller on the other end.
And one of our sponsors for this segment is bakersfit.com. That's Bill Robinson. Bill, we had him on the show earlier. What a fantastic young man. And we're looking forward to doing some exciting things with him. He's determined. He's committed to getting you fit.
And twice voted the best personal trainer in Bakersfield.
Yes, he's on the move.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
Yes, you want him to train you.
All right.
Don, it's exciting. I like, before we went to the break, we have just a delightful man we're interviewing.
Does this sound like a boring guy?
No, I was about to say, to the audience, we're interviewing the most boring man in the world. That's what he calls himself, but he is not. And the people that I've talked with, I've mentioned, hey, we're having John Gwynn on the show. And everything came back, just what you were describing earlier, how people speak of him. So nice and kind. And I know the audience will hear that in you. So you're not boring, John.
So, John, now just take us through the steps that really prepared you, how each step prepared you for the next, and then finally brought you to Shafter, where you really wanted to be. And then we'll talk about that community.
Well, as I said, we worked for the I worked for the city of Hanford, and we lived there for 8 years.
In what capacity were you?
I was in charge of their utilities, and then I became the assistant public works director.
All right.
When we first moved to Hanford, Hanford was about 18,000 people, which was about the same size as Shafter today. When we left, it was about 30,000 people, so it was still a small town, a small community. But as I said, we wanted to, just for the family, wanted to get back to Kern County, and I had a strong desire for my boys to grow up in a high school like I grew up in, which was Wasco, and so we ended up in Shafter, and I started with the city of Shafter as a public works director, and became the city engineer, and then became the assistant city the director of community services, and the assistant city manager, and then eventually became the city manager. And it actually, so I've gotten to see a lot of the history of Kern County, and a lot of the history of California, and how that history has changed small rural farming communities. And it's really been interesting, and it's been a good spot for me, because when I was a kid growing up, I actually worked in Shafter when I was in high school for a company called Brown and Bryan. They had a lab, and I was kind of a lab. I was a lab technician in high school for that company. They're no longer there. They're out of business. But all of the small communities in the valley, the farming communities, they served smaller family farms, and Shafter and Wasco was no different. It was surrounded by people who had settled the area. They all had a section or two of ground that they farmed. If you had more than a couple of sections of ground, you were a big farmer. And so each one of those little communities were the service centers for those farming operations.
For our viewers that are not farmers, a section is what, about 660?
Yeah, 640 acres, 660.
Okay, all right.
So it's a mile square, a mile by a mile by a mile.
Yeah.
And that was in the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then what happened was a lot of those small farmers sold to larger land holdings, and we started having larger farming operations and not as many family farms. And just a number of things happened over the course of the last 30 years that drastically changed the way the small communities like Arvin and Wasco and Shafter and Delano and McFarland. Delano's a little bit larger now, but just how they looked and how they functioned. So I was there throughout all of that transformation, and worked with Shafter's, I think, unique because we had really, really strong community leadership that stayed in that community and has a heart for that community and loves that community and loves it dearly. I mean, if you talk to council members that are in Shafter, and some of them are longtime council members, Kathy Prout, John Johnston. I can go on about just names of Fran Flores, Gary. There's just a large group of people in that community that care dearly about the place and the community, and so they've been able to do some things in Shafter that other small communities have been challenged to do. And I was really just fortunate enough to be the guy that fell into the job.
John, when you came to that job, had you formed your own independent vision of what you wanted to see happen? Was there a plan, a dynamism in your mind that you wanted to see move forward? What was your initial feelings coming into the position?
Yeah, no. What had happened was we about 18 years ago, the community did a vision project. They got the whole community together and said, things are changing. The way local governments are funded, the way jobs are, everything's changing about our little town. Downtowns don't work anymore. Back when I tell people that when I was growing up, people lived in the town they worked in, and they shopped in the town they lived in, and I mean there was really a sense of community, and even in Bakersfield it was the same way. I mean everybody had a purpose, and they knew how those purposes fit together. What today, people live in one town, they work in another town, they shop on the internet or they shop in another town, and they really don't know which town they're in when they're doing any of those things, really. They live where their standard of living and work where their standard of living is going to be best served, and they shop where they get the best deal, and that's going to be on the internet, or it may be at the mall, or it may be at at Walmart or Target, where but that's how we live today, and through those changes, it's changed community, and it's really changed small farming communities a lot. And so what happened in Shafter is that the community got together and said, well, the world is changing. And it's a typical strategic planning model. And what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our resources? What can we do? How can we take charge of our own destiny? And one of the things that I've enjoyed about Shafter as more than anything is that it's independent, and it wants to take care of itself. It doesn't want to be a ward of be a dependent of the state or a dependent of the federal government. It wants to have an economy that supports itself, that it can grow and reap the benefits of its hard work, or it can suffer the consequences of its mistakes. And that's how the core of the community is. And so we did a strategic plan.
I think we used to call that the American way, didn't we?
Well, they did a strategic plan, and at the time there were about 7,000 people in town, and well over 3,500 people participated in it.
Wow.
They set the course. They said that it was important to have job diversity. It was important to find employment for its citizens, and it was important to generate a tax base that paid for a police department and kept the street lights on and the streets cleaned and the potholes filled. And so they did that. Now, it hasn't always been without some controversy, but we actually wrote the plan down. And so as we started to chart the course to accomplish that, we realized that several things had to happen. One was that we couldn't just do it ourselves. We couldn't just do it internal to Shafter. We had to convince people outside of Shafter that Shafter was a good bet, that their interests were going to be better served if they were with us and partnered with us. And so that was a part of what they recognized. And then they also recognized, at least the leadership in the community, recognized that they were going to probably have to make some decisions that wouldn't necessarily be what they would ideally want. And if you know anything about Shafter, I mean, we annexed property down to 7 Standard Road and over to 99. We have for a small community, we have a large geography.
What's the population there in Shafter?
It's about 18,000 people.
Okay.
Now. But we have a large employment base. A lot of people work in Shafter and live in Bakersfield.
Okay.
But we had to start to do some things that were not necessarily ideal, I guess.
Okay.
I'm under the impression that you really do have a downtown that's working, a main street that's functioning. Tell us about that and how you did it.
Yeah, and no, well, I that may be a little bit of an overstatement. I mean, we do have a downtown, and we do have a main street that's functioning, but the diversity in retailing is not there. There are a lot of stores that are all very similar, and it is very, very difficult to, in a small town, especially close to a large urban center, to have a retail core that functions very well. There are communities that have done it, and they've done it successfully. Tehachapi is one, and I think Tehachapi's done a wonderful job with her downtown. But Shafter has certainly done some improvements downtown. We have a nice downtown park, and it's a pleasant place to be, for sure.
I was going to say a pleasant place to visit. Break time.
When I first, just before we break, when I first came to the Valley back in 1987, I had a number of assignments out in Shafter to cover, and I really gathered the immediate impression that Shafter was really a Mayberry. It really was an expression of America that seemed to have vanished a long time ago. And when we come back, John, I'm very interested as the rest of the nation went through the tumultuous 60s and 70s with the coming of drugs and gangs and graffiti, how that affected you. So I want to hear those answers when we come back.
It's a great Shafter story, really.
All right, we'll hear that story.
I want to hear more about his exciting life when we come back. Thank you for staying with us.
If you own or operate a private dental practice and need help with claim submissions, claim follow-ups, updating patients' accounts, or posting insurance payments, turn to Thorne Dental Claim Professionals. TDCP is dedicated to providing trained dental claim specialists to take care of your dental insurance billing and claims. Your patients are your #1 priority, so give them the attention they need by trusting in TDCP to take care of your administrative tasks. For more information, visit www.dentalclaimprofessionals.com or call them today.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield, California. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores. Kern Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, real estate, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the bi-monthly Business Journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
Save 50 to 90% with the Bakersfield Californian's Daily Deal featured on Bakersfield.com. A daily deal is offered each weekday on services from local restaurants, dry cleaners, health and beauty services, retail shops, and local activities for the entire family. The Daily Deal is 100% local. Find these amazing deals only at dailydeal.bakersfield.com.
Hi, Corey Costello here, host of Roadrunner Rundown, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. right here on Bakersfield.com. It's the official program of CESUB Athletics. We bring you inside the program with interviews with coaches and student athletes. Of course, everybody's favorite Corey versus. I mean, people like to see me in embarrassing athletic situations. And, of course, we'll have all the highlights from around the Roadrunners as well. So join us for Roadrunner Rundown, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. right here on Bakersfield.com.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet. You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
And welcome back to Open Up. We are talking to the most exciting man in the world. Don?
We're talking with John Gwynn, and John has been, how many people do you know that can go through occupy a very critical position for more than 3 decades and come out and have everyone's admiration and wish he could go longer. But
Yes.
that's who we've got here. John Gwynn, the recently retired city manager of Shafter, California, a true Mayberry. And yet, John, you moved there because you wanted your sons, your children to grow up in a more protected environment, and yet here come the 60s, here come the 70s, here come the drugs that are just penetrating every community, every school, every aspect of our society, bringing destruction and in all kinds of ways. How did Shafter weather the coming of graffiti and gangs and drugs and whatever?
Several ways, and it is an interesting part of the Shafter story, I think. When a lot of communities, it's a close-knit community, so people are watching for each other and they care. So they're going to be involved if things are not the way they should be. But I think one of the things that is maybe not unique but important has been that as long as I can remember, from the time I was in high school and watching Shafter all the way up until today, having their own police department, being in control of that police department has been a very, very high priority for that community. And that sounds like, that's something that's not, that big of a deal, but a lot of communities don't have their own police department. They contract with the county, and so they've lost control. Not that counties necessarily do a bad job, but if you have if you have local control over that department, and this gets back to this whole philosophy that Shafter has: be responsible for yourself, and that police department has been and continues to be a very, very high priority. And even today, that police department is doing police technology things that other communities can only dream of. It is very important for Shafter to be the safest community in the state, and it always has been that. And that's still a priority for that community going forward. That takes money, and it takes commitment and leadership from the city council. But the city council in Shafter, even before I was there, even when I was in high school, had made that police department a very, very, very high priority.
Police departments themselves can be a problem. There can be kind of all kinds of problems arise within a police department and between a city manager and the city leadership and the department. How have you maintained harmonious relations, effective relations, to make sure the community is protected by those who are really there to preserve and protect?
You're right. I mean, police departments in and of themselves can be challenges, and frankly, years ago, the police department in Shafter had some challenges, and you're going to have ups and downs, and that's just the nature of us being people living together. When I was the city manager, though, and I was very, very fortunate in that we always had and do today have very, very high quality chiefs. The Shafter is it's a charter city, and it's a strong manager form of government. So the police chief works for the city manager. But what is critical there is that the leadership and the culture of the organization has the very highest standards, and absolutely everyone there is committed to reaching those goals of extremely high standards. And certainly for the last 20 years, we've been just blessed with great chiefs, great culture within the department, a commitment to serve and protect the community. And as long as that culture is there, you're in great shape with the police department, and that's what we've had in Shafter.
And is it a fact that Shafter is the safest community in California?
Well, our crime rates are certainly very look good, and if we're not, we're getting there, and it will be. And I think that is going to be one of the biggest challenges of California cities over the next half decade for sure, and maybe the next decade. Is safety. There's a shortage of revenue. The cost is going up. It's and frankly, societally, we've given the bad guys some advantages. So that the police department, they have a very, very high standard that they have to live by in order to protect you. It is very hard. It's very, very difficult. So
So when the bad guys tried to make inroads, what did they meet when they tried to set up shop in your
Strong
town?
arm of the law.
Well, I mean, it's we obviously we're going to follow the laws and dealing
Yes.
with dealing with the bad guys, but they're going to see a police car. They're going to be approached. There's a presence there, and if something does happen, we catch them. I mean, we just do. I have a really quick, funny story. We have we're putting a number of cameras in, and this technology policing is important, whether people like them or they don't like them. But we have a camera on a very, very high tower in a large industrial area, and someone saw some guys breaking into a construction site, and they stole something. And we had the camera up there, and the camera spotted the car, and police department dispatched the police officer. He goes down there, and the camera actually got to follow this guy over into an almond orchard. And we just, he was already back up in there, and the police car just went in there. And
See, I'm in favor of cameras.
Well, this is a great success story. And the bad guy had no idea how we found him. I mean, he just didn't know. It's just, how did you know we're in there?
Yeah,
But it is a very tough business, and it's going to get even more difficult because when I was a kid, a lot of guys wanted to be police officers. A lot of and it was predominantly a male-dominated profession. Today, not as many people want to do it. I mean, the hours are difficult. And I mean, the work is difficult. It's a very, very tough profession, and it is getting more and more difficult to find people that you would put a gun on their hip and a badge on their chest and put them out to protect you.
Very interesting.
So the broader community I think, and would encourage them to appreciate that.
Yes.
It's a tough way to make a living, and getting to be very difficult to get people to go into that profession.
John, let me go back to your exciting life. So would you tell us some more about, we heard about your beautiful, lovely wife with the blue dress.
She is beautiful.
She is.
Tell us more about the personal things that went on in your life. And basically, what are you doing today? What kind of exciting things are you doing?
Well, I'm doing some really fun things today. But as I said, Marcia and I have been married 42 years. We have two sons. One's in his 40s and one's in his 30s. We have two grandchildren. We have a granddaughter that's going to start high school this year, and that's and in my life, I didn't have any daughters and didn't have any sisters. I mean, so this is our granddaughter's the first girl in my part of the family, and so that's been a great experience. And we have a great grandson. I've got wonderful stories about that, but I won't bore you with them because they're only wonderful to me, I'm sure.
No.
And so we're just really, really blessed. Both of my boys have done really, really well. I'm very, very proud of them.
I heard you say earlier you ride bikes.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Right. I for those who know me, I ride a bicycle, a road bike, and I like to race it. And for an old guy, my wife doesn't like for me to race it because I'm an old guy. But I ride a lot actually.
And that's basically the type of exercise you get, or do you get more?
No, that's all right. I ride my bike probably 11 hours a week or so. So it's
John,
if I did any more than that, she would shoot me.
The larger question of just physical fitness and being robust for the job. Tell us about your philosophy of just staying fit, so to be useful.
Yes.
Well, it's like so much of my life. I've been blessed with good health, and I've been blessed with a good job. I've been blessed with a great family. I've been blessed with a God that loves me. So for me, it's being in good physical shape is just a part of who you are, and I count it more as a blessing because so many folks just they can't do it, and through no fault of their own. So, from my perspective, it keeps me where I can do more things during the day, and keep going, and I
You
like
bet.
that.
You bet.
So it's important to be in health.
It certainly is helpful. If my problem is I'm 62 and feel like I'm 35. I guess.
Oh, really?
My children tell me I've crashed my bike a couple of times and broken bones and had a few problems with that. And my kids tell me there's a reason why there's not 60-year-old race car drivers. Their reflexes aren't very good, and I have that problem. So I have to realize that.
I was going to say, he's riding a bicycle. I was thinking about maybe a little nice sporty car, but you prefer the bicycle.
Oh yeah, if you can't pedal it, I don't. I'd rather pedal it. That's for sure.
Tina, I found myself at a Rotary meeting, I think it was, and I was sitting, and some of Kern County's most important men, including our county administrator, were there, and I just happened to mention, I'm going out to Shafter this evening for John Gwynn's retirement party, and the county's chief administrator just said, John Gwynn. He said, John Gwynn is the finest city manager that any community in Kern County has had in decades. And every head at that table nodded, and just everyone said, John, great guy, wonderful leader. So when we come back from our break, we have John Nyland, our county administrator, here in the studio, and we're going to hear some words from him, good words for the coming week, and his good words about John Nyland. And then I think as long as we've got him in the studio, we'll bring him around, sit him down, and we'll just have a little conversation about this. So don't go away.
We'll get him to open up, too.
If you own or operate a private dental practice and need help with claim submissions, claim follow-ups, updating patients' accounts, or posting insurance payments, turn to Thorne Dental Claim Professionals. TDCP is dedicated to providing trained dental claim specialists to take care of your dental insurance billing and claims. Your patients are your #1 priority, so give them the attention they need by trusting in TDCP to take care of your administrative tasks. For more information, visit www.dentalclaimprofessionals.com or call them today.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield Californian. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores. Kern Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, real estate, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the bi-monthly Business Journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
The new book is out. That was easy. I would title this thing sort of a description of what raising children is like. That was easy. I've been writing columns now for about 25 years. Writing has always been a conversation. If you're taking somebody by the hand for 3 or 4 minutes and you're not letting go. The new book, That Was Easy. Nothing easy about any of this, but we've had some fun, and I hope you guys will have some fun looking at this book.
The Bakersfield Californian is a great read on the iPad, but did you know that the Bakersfield Californian is available on your Kindle Fire? Or how about Google's Nexus 7, the Nook? You bet. You can also read a full replica of the newspaper on your Android-powered smartphone, on Apple's iPhone, or on your laptop. We have a solution for any device. E-Edition is free for subscribers, or just $7.99 a month. The Bakersfield Californian. We're everywhere and anytime. Subscribe today. Bakersfield.com.
Save 50 to 90% with the Bakersfield Californian's daily deal featured on Bakersfield.com. A daily deal is offered each weekday on services from local restaurants, dry cleaners, health and beauty services, retail shops, and local activities for the entire family. The daily deal is 100% local. Find these amazing deals only at dailydeal.bakersfield.com.
And And welcome back, everyone. We had a fabulous time. I know I did. I was meeting John Gwynn for the first time, and I think he's quite exciting, Don.
He is an amazing man
Yes.
in the most humble and wonderful way.
Yes. And Don, a big thank you to our dear friend Denise Haddock. She is the CEO and everything else of Denise Haddock Interior Designs. And she brought this lovely arrangement in here today.
Always makes us look good. And speaking of
Yes.
looking good, you're looking very fashionable today.
No, Don. Well, thank you.
Very
thank you
good.
so much. And so do you.
Listen, time for good words for the coming week, and I think this, and we're very privileged this time around to have our own Kern County Administrator, one of our busiest men in this whole county. But when he heard that John Gwynn was going to be here, he said absolutely he'd come and share a few words. So, John Nyland, take it away. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to your listeners and your viewers. Proverbs tells you that where there is no vision, the people perish. And I'm very pleased to be here today because I'm a big fan of John Gwynn, because John Gwynn really embodies the concept of having a vision, working a vision, and building a community. There are few people in this world that I know that value their community and their activities greater than they do themselves. And John is the embodiment of somebody who can lead an organization, can lead a community, can lead a county for that matter, with the kind of vision that says everybody can win, not just one person has to win. And that's the sort of future that I hope the county has, that the cities in the county have, and that we embrace even up in the state legislature, that we start to stop being so divided about ideology and start thinking about what's really best for our constituents, what's really best for our consumers. And I think John has had a long history of doing just that. You know, one of the things I pride myself in is finding a circle of exceptional staff and exceptional people who can assist us. The minute that John Gwynn told me that he was retiring, I offered John a job. So that's an indication that we needed his help, we need his vision, we need his ability to see a bigger picture. And I know that he's gone on to another career, but we have the highest regard for John. And I know from a community perspective and from where we really want to go as individuals, as communities, as counties, is to follow the footsteps that say there's a bigger purpose out there. Let's find that bigger purpose. Let's hold on to that bigger purpose. Let's not get distracted, and let's do what's right for the people.
Nyland, boy, I'll tell you, we're hearing a lot of wisdom on this show today. I'm going to ask John to get up from his chair over there, come around and sit down next to John Gwynn here. We're going to chat a little bit more. John, just come on around.
Yes.
We want to. Well, as long as we got you in the studio, we want to talk about
Don,
this.
while he's coming around, I just want to welcome our new viewer. We have a new viewer in Los Angeles.
Really?
Her name is Sandra Nicholson.
Okay.
I talked with her the other day, and she said, I'm online watching now, so thank you so much, Sandra, for watching, and all of our viewers,
You bet.
not only here in Bakersfield, but across the state, the nation, and even around the world.
You bet.
So thank you all.
Guys, you two have been in pivotal leadership positions, and it's almost seems an axiom of leadership that whatever decision you make, you know, to favor one side, you alienate and anger the other side. And yet, how do you deal with that personally? How do you deal with it professionally? And John, you seem to have kind of skirted a lot of that. Share with us how you negotiate that difficulty.
You have a lot of Johns here. You know, I think it has been a pleasure to work with John and the county. Shafter's had a great relationship with the county all the time that I've been in Shafter. That for me, the key to remember is that we all serve the same people. And we have a great project going on right now with the county in Shafter. The county operates the library system. There's a library out in Shafter. It was utilized, probably the Shafter Library was utilized as much as any, if not more, in the entire county system. But the county partnered with us and the city and the school district. Three governmental entities got together and we're building a learning center inside that library. And the city will fund the staff and is making some changes. The county provided the building. The school district is providing some stuff. But it's just a great example of how three governmental agencies can come together, take a fixed asset and resources, and provide a really, really neat service to the children in a community that we couldn't have done independent of each other. So, and we've been able to do those kinds of things with the county. It's just one example. I can give you some bigger ones. I like that one because it touches so many young people, and it's, frankly, one of the things that's most important to me right now. But those are the kinds of things when you get win-win operations. If you can't do them, you can't do them. But if you find governments just fighting over the same nickel, everybody loses.
John Nyland, is this unique, or do you see other communities in Kern County doing this, and should we be doing this?
Well, first of all, I'd like to comment on what John mentioned about the library. We have libraries in the county of Kern, and because of budget constraints, many of them are only open a few days a week. And John came to us and said, I have an idea to open that library up all the time, beyond the hours of the day, into the night, and into the weekends. And the way we would do this, we would share the building, we would have a community center, you'd still have access to libraries. And frankly, the first reaction in almost any of those settings is, wait a second. But as we sat down and we talked with John, and one of the things, I'll take a little bit step back about how you work well together. It's true that you have to have a common vision for the residents of being everybody, but you also have to have trust. You have to have a man who has his word is his bond, and that when he says something, he's going to back it up.
Yes.
And when he has a vision that says we're here for a bigger purpose, you want to listen to him. You want to say, okay, what do you got? Because I think you're onto something. And so it was an exciting partnership, and we've had a number of exciting partnerships. I can remember a long, long time I was at ETR, and I was helping, and I met John, and I was impressed way back then and continue to be. With regard to the other cities, we have great relationships with all of the cities in Kern County, some of them more productive than others, but I think all of them are seeing that government has to change. We can't be the same government we were, and if we are, shame on us. We need to change. We need to adapt. We're in a little bit of a financial crisis now, and from that, I think good things will happen. It will make us, it will challenge us, it will allow us to, lift our eyes from the ground up to the horizon and find out what's the very most important thing that we can do. And we'll hopefully share that with all the cities in Kern County.
John, open up to John Nyland. Open up with us about your background. Tell us about your family, your life.
Well, I wasn't born here. I was born in California, but not in Texas. I was born in Santa Monica, California. My folks soon moved to a community called Palm Desert. I don't know if you know where that is, near Palm Springs. Yes. Grew up in that sleepy little desert town. Went to Indio High School. I don't know if you've heard of Indio.
Sure.
Yes.
Go Fighting Rajas, right? And it was a great experience. It was in the '60s. It was, we were almost isolated. We were not part of that bigger LA Watts riot, all that sort of stuff. We were this little desert town who kind of watched what was going on, but we still had the same values, the same sort of things, experience that I think John had. Everybody knew you. You knew everybody. Everybody was your parent. Everybody was watching you. You know, if you crossed the street when you weren't supposed to, Mom would talk to you about it at the dinner table. And so we grew up, my brother and I were very blessed, and I really enjoy that. And I went on to find my way in Bakersfield kind of as a fluke. I was going to be here 10 weeks. I was going to go to the University of California at Santa Barbara. I was accepted, ready to go, but I found the California State College Bakersfield was such an exciting place to go because the teachers embodied what I was looking for.
Wow.
They took a personal interest in each and every student.
Okay.
If you have time for a short story, I had a class where I turned in a paper, and it was 1977. In those days, we didn't have computers, we didn't have thumb drives, we didn't have hard drives, we didn't even have drives. So we had a piece of paper, and I turned it in. You turned it in at the secretary signed it off, and I was ready to go. And so I'm leaving that day, that Saturday, in my dorm room, going to Santa Barbara, and I hear a knock on the door. And there's Dr. Charles Kegley in the ugliest pair of Bermuda shorts I'd ever seen. I said, Dr. Kegley, why are you here? He goes, John, we've lost your paper. Wow. Do you have a copy? I don't have a copy. He said, well, let's go for a walk. So we walked around for about 35 minutes. I told him all about my paper, my sources, and everything, and he walked me back to my dorm and said, John, you're going to get an A in my class. And I thought to myself, where in the world would you find a professor who would look me? He'd never been to my dorm. He never even knew I lived in the dorms. Why did he take that much interest in me? So I said, I'm going to give this another 10 weeks, and it's been 37 years later.
And here you are. Wow.
Excellent.
You know, we've got 2 minutes. One last thing I'd like to touch on. Governance has become so acrimonious. The public, radio saying, if you don't agree with me, if you do it differently, you're an idiot. You know, hurling labels at one another, hurling rancor at one another. How can we get past this?
Well, I think, as John mentioned, have a common vision, enjoy the people you work with, look to see that this isn't about some ideological issue. It's about how am I helping my neighbor? How am I helping my community? What do they need, and how do I get that to happen? I think it's going back to the days where John and I grew up, where we see the American way, as you mentioned, Don, that there are important values. Let's stay with our values, and I think we can get a lot done. I'll let John comment as well.
I would echo that. I think it helps today to have some common respect for each other, to recognize that John's interests are my interests, and that the library project is a great example. Right. It took a little bit of discussion, but I had every confidence that if it was a good idea and it was going to be good for the citizens of Kern County, we were going to get it done. Because I had confidence in him.
We got to go. And returning to our theme, hang out with the wise and you'll become wise. And we got to hang out with the wise today.
Yes, and thanks to Kayla Thorne for being our new commercial sponsor this week and this month. So see you next time. Thank you to our guests.
Bye-bye.